Welcome back to the School of Nap. Class is in session. Tonight's lecture: the human body. Not just the organs and systems, but the cells, the molecules, the elegant complexity that makes you alive. Get comfortable, settle into your space, and let yourself relax. There's no need to stay awake for this one. Your body will continue doing its work, whether you're conscious or not. Let's begin. Right now, as you lie here, your body is performing millions of tasks simultaneously. Your heart is beating, your lungs are breathing, your cells are converting nutrients into energy, your immune system is patrolling for threats, your brain is processing sensory information, maintaining memories, regulating everything. All of this happens without conscious effort. You don't have to think about it. Your body knows what to do. The human body is a collection of about 37 trillion cells. 37 trillion. That number is almost incomprehensible. If you counted one cell per second, it would take over 1 million years to count them all. Each cell is alive, a tiny, self-contained unit, working in coordination with all the others. They communicate, cooperate, specialize. Together they form tissues. Tissues form organs. Organs form systems. Systems form you. Think about that for a moment. You are not one thing. You are a community. A vast, intricate collaboration of microscopic living things, all working toward the same goal, keeping you alive, keeping you functioning, keeping you you. There's something profound in that, something worth contemplating as you drift toward sleep. Let's start at the smallest level, the cell, the fundamental unit of life. A cell is the smallest unit of life that can exist independently. It has a membrane, a boundary that separates inside from outside. Inside, there's cytoplasm, a gel-like substance where chemical reactions occur. There's a nucleus, a control center containing DNA. There are organelles, specialized structures that perform specific functions. Mitochondria produce energy. Ribosomes build proteins. The endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus process and package molecules. Lysosomes break down waste. Each organelle has a role like organs in a body, which is why they're called organelles, little organs. Picture a cell. Imagine you could shrink down and enter one. You'd see a bustling microscopic factory, molecules moving constantly, proteins being assembled, energy being generated, waste being processed and expelled. It's organized chaos, guided by the instructions encoded in DNA, responding to signals from outside, adapting to changing conditions. A cell is not static. It's dynamic, alive, constantly working. The membrane that surrounds a cell is not just a barrier, it's selective. It controls what enters and what exits. Nutrients pass in, waste passes out. Signals from other cells are received through receptors on the membrane surface. The cell responds to its environment, adjusting its activity based on what's needed. If energy is required, it produces more. If a threat is detected, it activates defensive mechanisms. The cell is responsive, intelligent in its own way. Cells come in many types: nerve cells, neurons, have long extensions that transmit electrical signals across distances. Muscle cells contain proteins that slide past each other, generating force, creating movement. Red blood cells are packed with hemoglobin, a protein that carries oxygen, and they've lost their nucleus to make more room for it. White blood cells, immune cells, patrol the body, looking for invaders. Epithelial cells form protective barriers, lining your skin, your gut, your lungs. Each cell type has a specific structure suited to its function. Your cells are constantly being replaced. The cells lining your stomach are replaced every few days because stomach acid is harsh and they wear out quickly. Skin cells are replaced every few weeks, shedding and renewing, which is why you leave tiny flakes of yourself everywhere you go. Red blood cells live about 4 months before they're broken down and recycled. Cells in your bones and muscles last longer, years in some cases. Some neurons in your brain have been with you since birth and will remain until you die. You are not the same collection of cells you were a decade ago. You've been rebuilt, molecule by molecule, cell by cell, yet you remain you. Let your mind rest on that image for a moment. Your body renewing itself constantly. Old cells dying, new cells forming. The process invisible, automatic, relentless. You are always becoming, always transforming, yet your identity persists. Your memories remain. There's continuity despite constant change. Let's move to the next topic on our syllabus. DNA. The instruction manual, written in a chemical language. DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, is a molecule that stores genetic information. It's shaped like a twisted ladder, a double helix with 2 strands wound around each other. The rungs of the ladder are made of 4 chemical bases: adenine, thymine, guanine, cytosine. A always pairs with T, G always pairs with C. The sequence of these bases encodes instructions, like letters forming words, forming sentences, forming a book. The book of you. If you stretched out all the DNA in a single cell, it would be about 2 meters long. But it's coiled and folded so tightly, it fits inside a nucleus only a few micrometers across. If you stretched out all the DNA in all your cells and laid it end to end, it would reach from Earth to the sun and back more than 300 times. That's how much information is stored in your body. 300 round trips to the sun. All of it encoded in a molecule so small you can't see it even with a powerful microscope. DNA is organized into chromosomes. Humans have 46 chromosomes, 23 pairs. 1 set from your mother, 1 from your father. Each chromosome contains thousands of genes. A gene is a segment of DNA that codes for a protein. Proteins do the actual work in cells. They catalyze reactions, build structures, transport molecules, receive signals, regulate processes. Your genes determine what proteins you can make, and those proteins determine what you are, how you look, how you function to a large extent. But DNA doesn't act alone. It needs to be read, interpreted, translated into action. That's where RNA comes in. When a gene needs to be expressed, an enzyme unzips the DNA double helix, reads the sequence, and creates a complementary strand of messenger RNA, mRNA. This mRNA carries the genetic message from the nucleus to the ribosomes in the cytoplasm, where proteins are assembled. It's an elegant system. DNA stores the information safely in the nucleus. RNA carries temporary copies out to the cellular machinery. Proteins do the work. Think about what this means. Every cell in your body contains the same DNA, the same complete set of instructions. Yet a liver cell behaves differently than a neuron, which behaves differently than a muscle cell. How? Gene regulation. Different genes are turned on or off in different cells. A liver cell activates genes for liver-specific proteins. A neuron activates genes for neurotransmitter receptors and ion channels. Same instruction manual, different chapters being read. It's like an orchestra. Every musician has the same sheet music, but they play different parts. Together they create harmony. Mutations happen. DNA is copied every time a cell divides, and sometimes errors occur. A base gets swapped. A segment gets deleted. A piece gets duplicated. Most mutations are harmless or repaired by cellular machinery designed to detect and fix errors. Some mutations are beneficial, providing an advantage, driving evolution. A few are harmful, disrupting normal function, potentially causing disease. Cancer, for instance, often results from accumulated mutations that cause cells to divide uncontrollably. Your body has safeguards, checkpoints that prevent damaged cells from replicating, but sometimes those safeguards fail. You inherited your DNA from your parents. They inherited theirs from their parents. This chain extends back through all your ancestors, thousands of generations, millions of years. You carry genetic echoes of ancient humans, of primate ancestors, of early mammals, of the first vertebrates, of simple multicellular organisms. Deep in your genome are sequences that haven't changed much in hundreds of millions of years because they perform essential functions. You are connected to all life on Earth through this shared genetic heritage. The same code that built every living thing that has ever existed. Let's shift our focus now to another aspect of the body, how cells organize into tissues and how the body maintains stability. If you're still with us, you're doing wonderfully. Though honestly, at the school of nap, falling asleep is just as commendable as staying awake. Let your mind drift if it needs to. We'll be here when you return. Cells with similar functions group together to form tissues. There are 4 main types of tissue in the human body. Epithelial tissue covers surfaces and lines cavities. Your skin is epithelial tissue. So is the lining of your intestines, your blood vessels, your lungs. Epithelial cells form barriers, controlling what passes through, protecting what's underneath. Connective tissue supports and binds other tissues. Bone is connective tissue, mineralized and rigid. Cartilage is connective tissue, firm but flexible, cushioning your joints. Blood is connective tissue, a liquid carrying cells and nutrients. Fat is connective tissue, storing energy, insulating, cushioning organs. Tendons and ligaments are connective tissue connecting muscles to bones and bones to bones. Connective tissue is diverse, but it all provides structure and support. Muscle tissue generates force and movement. There are 3 types. Skeletal muscle, attached to bones, moves your body voluntarily. You decide to lift your arm, and skeletal muscle contracts, pulling on bones, creating movement. Cardiac muscle, found only in the heart, contracts rhythmically, pumping blood. It works continuously, automatically, from before you're born until the moment you die. Smooth muscle lines hollow organs, your stomach, intestines, blood vessels, bladder. It contracts involuntarily, moving food through your digestive tract, regulating blood flow, controlling the diameter of airways. Nervous tissue receives, processes, and transmits information. Neurons carry electrical signals. Glial cells support neurons, providing nutrients, removing waste, insulating axons, modulating signaling. Your brain is mostly nervous tissue. So is your spinal cord and the network of nerves extending throughout your body. Nervous tissue allows you to sense the world, think, remember, move, feel. These 4 tissue types combine to form organs. Your heart is made of cardiac muscle tissue, connective tissue, epithelial tissue lining the chambers, and nervous tissue regulating the rhythm. Your stomach has smooth muscle tissue to churn food, epithelial tissue to line the interior, connective tissue for support, and nervous tissue to coordinate activity. Organs are not single tissues. They're collaborations, each tissue contributing its specialized function. Organs work together in systems. The cardiovascular system, heart and blood vessels, circulates blood. The respiratory system, lungs and airways, exchanges gases. The digestive system, from mouth to anus, breaks down food and absorbs nutrients. The nervous system coordinates everything. The endocrine system releases hormones that regulate metabolism, growth, reproduction. The immune system defends against pathogens. The muscular and skeletal systems provide movement and support. The urinary system filters waste. The integumentary system, skin, hair, nails, protects against the environment. Each system has a role. Together, they maintain life. Picture your body as a city. Each cell is a citizen. Tissues are neighborhoods. Organs are districts. Systems are infrastructure, transportation, utilities, governance. Everything interconnected, everything dependent on everything else. When one part fails, others compensate, adjust, try to maintain stability. The body is resilient, adaptable, constantly working to preserve balance despite changing conditions. That balance is called homeostasis. The maintenance of stable internal conditions despite external changes. Your body temperature stays around 37 degrees Celsius, whether it's freezing outside or scorching hot. Your blood pH remains between 7.35 and 7.45, a narrow range that's critical for enzyme function. Your blood glucose levels are regulated within a specific range, not too high, not too low. Your blood pressure is adjusted to ensure adequate flow to all tissues. Homeostasis is active, dynamic, requiring constant monitoring and adjustment. Negative feedback loops maintain homeostasis. Here's how they work. A sensor detects a change. A control center processes the information and determines the appropriate response. An effector carries out the response, which counteracts the original change, bringing the system back toward the set point. Then the sensor detects that the correction has occurred, and the response diminishes. It's self-regulating. Consider body temperature. When you get too hot, sensors in your skin and hypothalamus detect the increase. The hypothalamus, acting as a control center, sends signals. Blood vessels in your skin dilate, increasing blood flow to the surface, releasing heat. Sweat glands activate, releasing water onto your skin, which evaporates, cooling you down. You might feel the urge to move to shade, to remove clothing, to drink cold water. All of these responses work to lower your temperature. When sensors detect that temperature is returning to normal, the responses taper off. When you get too cold, the opposite happens. Blood vessels in your skin constrict, reducing heat loss. You shiver, rapid muscle contractions generating heat. You feel the urge to seek warmth, to put on layers. Brown fat, a specialized tissue, burns energy to produce heat without muscle contraction. Babies have more brown fat than adults because they lose heat more quickly. Again, once temperature is restored, the responses stop. Imagine your body as a ship navigating rough seas. Homeostasis is the autopilot system, constantly making tiny adjustments to keep the ship on course. Waves push it one way, the rudder corrects. Wind shifts, the sails adjust. It's not perfect. There are fluctuations, but the overall trajectory is maintained. Without homeostasis, small disturbances would spiral out of control. With it, your body can function across a wide range of conditions. Take a breath. Let that image settle. Your body right now is making countless tiny corrections. You're not aware of most of them. They happen automatically, maintaining balance, preserving stability, keeping you alive. Let's move to the cardiovascular system. The heart and blood vessels that circulate life throughout your body. Your heart is a pump made of muscle. It's about the size of your fist, located slightly left of center in your chest, behind your sternum. It beats around 70 times per minute when you're at rest, faster when you're active. That's about 100,000 beats per day. Over 3 billion beats in a lifetime, if you live to 80. Each beat pumps blood out into the arteries, sends it coursing through your body, delivers oxygen and nutrients to every cell, collects waste, returns it through veins, back to the heart. The cycle repeats continuously from before you're born until you die. The heart has 4 chambers, 2 atria, smaller chambers that receive blood from the body and lungs, 2 ventricles, larger chambers that pump blood out to the body and lungs. The right side of the heart handles deoxygenated blood. Blood returns from the body to the right atrium, passes into the right ventricle, which pumps it to the lungs. In the lungs, carbon dioxide is released and oxygen is absorbed. The oxygenated blood returns to the left atrium, passes into the left ventricle, which pumps it out to the rest of the body through the aorta, the largest artery. Valves between the chambers ensure blood flows in one direction. When the atria contract, valves open, allowing blood into the ventricles. When the ventricles contract, those valves close, preventing backflow, while valves leading to the arteries open. The familiar heartbeat sound, lub-dub, is the sound of valves closing. Lub is the closing of the valves between atria and ventricles. Dub is the closing of the valves leading to the arteries. The heart muscle itself needs oxygen. It doesn't get it from the blood passing through its chambers. Instead, coronary arteries branch off the aorta and supply the heart muscle directly. If these arteries become blocked, part of the heart muscle is deprived of oxygen. Cells die. This is a heart attack, a myocardial infarction. The heart's rhythm can be disrupted. It can pump less effectively. It's a serious, life-threatening event. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. They have thick, elastic walls that can stretch. When blood surges through with each heartbeat, then recoil, helping to push blood forward even between beats. Large arteries branch into smaller arteries, which branch into arterioles, which branch into capillaries, the smallest blood vessels. Capillary walls are only 1 cell thick. This thinness allows oxygen, nutrients, and waste to diffuse between blood and tissues. Capillaries are where the real work of the cardiovascular system happens, the exchange of materials. Picture a capillary bed. Thousands of tiny vessels threading through tissue. Red blood cells squeeze through one at a time. Oxygen diffuses out. Carbon dioxide diffuses in. Glucose passes to hungry cells. Waste products are picked up. It's intimate, this exchange, happening at the cellular level. The whole system designed to bring blood into close contact with every part of your body. After passing through capillaries, blood enters venules, which merge into veins, which carry blood back to the heart. Veins have thinner walls than arteries because the pressure is lower. They have valves that prevent backflow, ensuring blood moves toward the heart even when you're standing and gravity is pulling it down. Muscle contractions help squeeze blood through veins. When you walk, your leg muscles contract, compressing veins, pushing blood upward. This is why sitting or standing still for long periods can cause blood to pool in your legs. Blood itself is a fascinating tissue. It's about 55% plasma, the liquid part mostly water, with dissolved proteins, nutrients, hormones, waste. The other 45% is cells. Red blood cells, erythrocytes, carry oxygen. They're disc-shaped, flexible, allowing them to squeeze through narrow capillaries. They have no nucleus, just packed full of hemoglobin, a protein with iron at its center that binds oxygen. Hemoglobin gives blood its red color. White blood cells, leukocytes, are part of the immune system. There are several types. Neutrophils engulf bacteria. Lymphocytes produce antibodies and coordinate immune responses. Monocytes become macrophages that consume debris and pathogens. White blood cells are less numerous than red blood cells, but they're crucial for defending against infection. Platelets are cell fragments involved in clotting. When a blood vessel is damaged, platelets stick to the site, clump together, release chemicals that activate clotting proteins in the plasma. These proteins form fibrin, a mesh that traps blood cells, forming a clot, sealing the wound, preventing excessive bleeding. It's a rapid, coordinated response, essential for survival. Your cardiovascular system is adaptable. When you exercise, your heart beats faster and harder, pumping more blood. Blood vessels in your muscles dilate, increasing flow. Vessels in your digestive system constrict, diverting blood to where it's needed. Your body prioritizes survival first. Digestion can wait. When you're at rest, the opposite happens. Your heart slows, blood flow redistributes, the system adjusts constantly, responding to demand. No need to take notes. Your subconscious is handling that. Just let the ideas wash over you. Let's talk about defense, your immune system, the complex network of cells, tissues, and molecules that protect you from infection and disease. You're constantly exposed to potential threats. Bacteria on your skin, in your mouth, in your gut. Viruses in the air you breathe. Fungi on surfaces you touch. Parasites in food or water. Most of the time you don't get sick because your immune system recognizes these invaders and eliminates them before they cause harm. It's working right now as you lie here patrolling, vigilant, defending. The immune system has multiple layers. The first is physical barriers. Your skin is a barrier. Intact, it's nearly impermeable to most pathogens. Mucous membranes line your respiratory and digestive tracts, trapping particles. Tears, saliva, and stomach acid contain enzymes and acids that kill microbes. These barriers are passive but effective, preventing most threats from ever entering your body. If pathogens get past the barriers, the innate immune system responds. Innate immunity is fast, non-specific. It doesn't distinguish between different types of bacteria or viruses. It just recognizes that something foreign is present and attacks. Phagocytes, cells that engulf and digest invaders, are key players. Neutrophils arrive first, consuming bacteria, dying in the process, forming pus. Macrophages follow, cleaning up debris, presenting fragments of pathogens to other immune cells. Inflammation is part of innate immunity. When tissue is damaged or infected, cells release chemical signals. Blood vessels dilate, increasing flow to the area, bringing more immune cells. The area becomes red, warm, swollen, sometimes painful. It's uncomfortable, but it's functional. The increased blood flow delivers resources and removes waste. The swelling isolates the infection. Inflammation is your body responding, fighting, repairing. The adaptive immune system is slower, but more specific. It takes days to ramp up, but it's powerful and it remembers. Adaptive immunity involves lymphocytes, specifically T cells and B cells. When a macrophage presents a fragment of a pathogen, helper T cells recognize it, activate, and coordinate a response. Cytotoxic T cells kill infected cells. B cells produce antibodies, proteins that bind to specific pathogens, marking them for destruction, neutralizing toxins, preventing viruses from entering cells. Antibodies are incredibly specific. Each antibody recognizes a particular molecular structure, an antigen. Your body can produce millions of different antibodies, covering a vast range of potential threats. When a B cell encounters its matching antigen, it multiplies, creating many identical copies, all producing the same antibody. This clonal expansion allows a rapid, targeted response. After an infection is cleared, some lymphocytes remain as memory cells. If the same pathogen appears again, even years later, memory cells recognize it immediately and mount a faster, stronger response. You usually don't get the same infection twice because of immunological memory. This is why vaccines work. They expose your immune system to a harmless version of a pathogen, training it to recognize the real thing without making you sick. Think about the elegance of this system. Millions of different cells, each capable of recognizing a specific threat. When needed, they activate, multiply, coordinate. When the threat is eliminated, they stand down but remain ready. It's adaptable, learning, improving with experience. Your immune system is your personal defense force, protecting you from a hostile microscopic world. Autoimmune diseases occur when the immune system mistakenly attacks the body's own cells. Type 1 diabetes results from T cells destroying insulin-producing cells in the pancreas. Rheumatoid arthritis involves immune attacks on joint tissue. Multiple sclerosis is caused by immune cells damaging the protective coating around nerve fibers. The mechanisms are complex, involving genetic predisposition and environmental triggers. But the result is the same. The defense system turns against its own. Allergies are immune overreactions to harmless substances, pollen, pet dander, certain foods. These aren't threats, but in some people, the immune system treats them as such. B cells produce antibodies. Mast cells release histamine, causing inflammation, itching, mucus production. It's a misdirected defense, causing discomfort without benefit. Immunodeficiency occurs when the immune system is weakened. HIV attacks helper T cells, gradually destroying them, leaving the body vulnerable to infections that wouldn't normally be a problem. Genetic disorders can impair immune function from birth. Malnutrition, stress, certain medications can suppress immunity temporarily. A compromised immune system struggles to defend, making even minor infections dangerous. Your immune system is not separate from you. It is you. It recognizes self from non-self, protects your integrity, maintains your boundary. It's intimately connected to your nervous and endocrine systems, influenced by stress, sleep, nutrition. Taking care of your body supports your immune function. Rest, proper nutrition, managing stress, all contribute to a robust defense. Let your mind rest on that image for a moment. An invisible army, billions strong, standing guard, fighting battles you're not aware of, keeping you safe, adapting, learning, remembering. It's been protecting you since before you were born and will continue until your last day. There's something comforting in that. Something worth appreciating as you drift towards sleep. If you're still with us, you're doing wonderfully. Though honestly, at the School of Nap, falling asleep is just as commendable as staying awake. Let's shift our focus to communication and control. The nervous system, the network that coordinates everything you do, everything you feel, everything you are, has two main divisions. The central nervous system, CNS, consists of the brain and spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system, PNS, consists of nerves extending throughout your body, connecting the CNS to muscles, organs, and sensory receptors. Information flows inward from sensors, is processed centrally, and commands flow outward to effectors. Neurons are the fundamental units of the nervous system. A typical neuron has a cell body containing the nucleus, dendrites that receive signals from other neurons, and an axon that transmits signals to other cells. Neurons communicate through electrical and chemical signals. When a neuron is stimulated sufficiently, it generates an action potential, a wave of electrical activity that travels down the axon at speeds up to 120 meters per second. At the end of the axon, the signal reaches a synapse, a tiny gap between neurons. The electrical signal triggers the release of neurotransmitters, chemical messengers that diffuse across the gap and bind to receptors on the next neuron, either exciting it or inhibiting it. This chemical signaling allows for modulation, amplification, integration of multiple inputs. It's how your nervous system processes information, makes decisions, learns. Your brain contains about 86 billion neurons, each connected to thousands of others. That's trillions of synapses, a network of staggering complexity. The patterns of activity in this network encode your thoughts, memories, perceptions, emotions. You are, in a very real sense, the pattern of activity in your brain. The brain has distinct regions with specialized functions. The cerebrum, the largest part, is divided into 2 hemispheres and 4 lobes per hemisphere. The frontal lobe is involved in planning, decision-making, personality, voluntary movement. The parietal lobe processes sensory information, spatial awareness. The temporal lobe handles auditory processing, memory, language comprehension. The occipital lobe processes vision. Deeper structures play critical roles. The thalamus relays sensory information. The hypothalamus regulates homeostasis, hunger, thirst, temperature, sleep-wake cycles, hormone release. The hippocampus is essential for forming new memories. The amygdala processes emotions, particularly fear. The basal ganglia coordinate movement. The cerebellum fine-tunes motor control and balance. The cerebral cortex, the outer layer of the cerebrum, is where higher order processing occurs. Conscious thought, language, abstract reasoning, planning. It's about 2 to 4 millimeters thick, highly folded to increase surface area. If you flattened it out, it would cover about 2,000 square centimeters, roughly the area of a large pizza. All that processing power packed into a wrinkled layer surrounding your brain. Think about what your brain is doing right now, processing these words, understanding their meaning, recalling related information, generating mental images, regulating your breathing, heart rate, temperature, maintaining your posture even as you lie still, filtering sensory input, deciding what's important, creating the subjective experience of being you. All of this happens simultaneously, seamlessly, mostly unconsciously. The spinal cord is a thick bundle of nerves extending from the brain down through the vertebral column. It carries signals between the brain and the rest of the body. It also mediates reflex arcs, rapid automatic responses that don't require brain involvement. Touch a hot surface and sensory neurons in your hand send a signal to the spinal cord. Interneurons in the cord process the signal and immediately send a command to motor neurons, which trigger muscle contraction, pulling your hand away. This happens before the pain signal reaches your brain, before you're even consciously aware of the heat. Reflexes are protective, fast, hardwired. The peripheral nervous system has two subdivisions. The somatic nervous system controls voluntary movements and carries sensory information from the body to the CNS. The autonomic nervous system controls involuntary functions, regulating organs, glands, smooth muscle, heart rate, digestion, respiration. You don't consciously control your heartbeat or intestinal contractions. The autonomic system handles it. The autonomic system itself has two branches. The sympathetic nervous system prepares the body for action, the fight or flight response. Pupils dilate, heart rate increases, blood pressure rises, digestion slows, energy is mobilized. You become alert, ready to respond to threats. The parasympathetic nervous system does the opposite, promoting rest and digest. Heart rate slows. Digestion activates. Energy is conserved. The body repairs and rebuilds. These two systems balance each other, adjusting your physiology to meet changing demands. Picture your nervous system as a vast communication network. Billions of neurons firing, coordinating, integrating. Signals racing along nerve fibers at incredible speeds. Information processed, decisions made, commands issued. It's how you interact with the world, how you move, sense, think, feel. You are your nervous system experiencing itself. Your nervous system needs information about the world. That's where your senses come in. Specialized receptors detect stimuli and convert them into neural signals, a process called transduction. Vision begins in the eye. Light enters through the cornea, passes through the pupil, is focused by the lens onto the retina at the back of the eye. The retina contains photoreceptors, rods and cones. Rods detect light intensity, allowing you to see in dim conditions, but only in shades of gray. Cones detect color. There are 3 types of cones: sensitive to different wavelengths, roughly corresponding to red, green, and blue. Your brain combines signals from these cones to perceive the full spectrum of color. Photoreceptors convert light into electrical signals, which are processed by layers of neurons in the retina before being sent via the optic nerve to the brain. The visual cortex in the occipital lobe reconstructs the image, identifying edges, shapes, motion, color. Vision isn't a passive recording, it's active construction. Your brain predicts what it expects to see, fills in gaps, creates the seamless visual experience you perceive. Hearing begins in the ear. Sound waves travel through the ear canal, vibrate the eardrum, which transfers the vibrations to 3 tiny bones in the middle ear, the malleus, incus, and stapes. These bones amplify the vibrations and transmit them to the cochlea, a spiral, fluid-filled structure in the inner ear. Inside the cochlea are hair cells, mechanoreceptors that bend in response to vibrations, generating electrical signals. Different frequencies of sound cause different parts of the cochlea to vibrate, allowing you to distinguish pitch. The auditory nerve carries signals to the brain, where they're processed into the perception of sound. Smell and taste are chemical senses. Olfactory receptors in your nose detect airborne molecules. You have about 400 different types of olfactory receptors, each sensitive to specific molecular shapes. When molecules bind to receptors, signals are sent to the olfactory bulb, then to areas of the brain involved in emotion and memory, which is why smells can evoke powerful recollections. Taste receptors on your tongue detect dissolved molecules in food. There are 5 basic tastes: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, umami. Each is detected by different receptors. Taste signals are sent to the brain, where they're combined with smell, texture, and temperature to create the experience of flavor. Most of what you perceive as taste is actually smell. Block your nose and food becomes bland. Touch is more complex than it seems. Your skin contains multiple types of mechanoreceptors. Some detect pressure, some detect vibration, some detect texture. Pain receptors, nociceptors, respond to tissue damage or extreme temperatures. Temperature receptors detect heat and cold. All these signals are sent to the somatosensory cortex in the parietal lobe, which creates a map of your body, allowing you to know what part of you is being touched without looking. Proprioception is your sense of body, position, and movement. Sensors in muscles, tendons, and joints detect stretch and tension, sending continuous feedback to your brain about where your limbs are in space. Close your eyes and touch your nose. You can do it because of proprioception. It's unconscious, but essential for coordinated movement. Balance relies on the vestibular system in the inner ear. Fluid-filled canals and chambers contain hair cells that detect head movement and orientation relative to gravity. Signals from the vestibular system are integrated with vision and proprioception to maintain balance and coordinate movements. Think about the richness of sensory experience. Light converted to electrical signals, interpreted as color and shape. Vibrations in air converted to sound, interpreted as music or speech. Molecules converted to smell and taste, evoking memory and emotion. Pressure on skin converted to touch, allowing connection. All of it mediated by specialized cells, transduced into the universal language of neurons, processed and integrated in your brain. You experience the world through these senses. They're your interface with reality. Let's take a moment to appreciate it. You're lying here, sensing, feeling the texture of fabric against your skin, hearing ambient sounds, maybe your own breathing, seeing darkness through closed eyelids or the dim light of a room, your body positioned in space, known without looking. All of this happening effortlessly, automatically constructing your moment-to-moment experience. Let's move to the next topic on our syllabus, the endocrine system, the slower, longer-lasting communication network that complements the nervous system. While the nervous system uses electrical signals and neurotransmitters for rapid communication, the endocrine system uses hormones, chemical messengers released into the bloodstream, traveling throughout the body, affecting cells that have appropriate receptors. Hormones regulate growth, metabolism, reproduction, mood, sleep, stress responses. They work on longer time scales than nerve signals, minutes to hours to days, and their effects can last much longer. Hormone levels are carefully regulated through feedback loops, maintaining balance. The hypothalamus, a small structure in the brain, is a master regulator. It monitors internal conditions and releases hormones that control the pituitary gland, a pea-sized gland attached to the base of the brain. The pituitary is often called the master gland because it secretes hormones that control other endocrine glands throughout the body. Growth hormone released by the pituitary stimulates growth in children and adolescents, promoting bone and muscle development. Deficiency leads to stunted growth. Excess leads to gigantism if it occurs before puberty or acromegaly. Abnormal growth of hands, feet, and facial features if it occurs after. The thyroid gland, located in the neck, produces thyroid hormones that regulate metabolism, the rate at which your cells use energy. Too much thyroid hormone and your metabolism speeds up. Heart races, you lose weight despite eating, feel anxious, jittery. Too little, and metabolism slows, you gain weight, feel fatigued, cold, depressed. The thyroid is regulated by the pituitary, which releases thyroid-stimulating hormone, TSH, which in turn is regulated by the hypothalamus. It's a cascade of control, fine-tuning metabolism. The adrenal glands sit atop your kidneys. The adrenal medulla, the inner part, releases adrenaline and noradrenaline in response to stress, preparing you for fight or flight. Heart pounds, breathing quickens, blood is diverted to muscles. Pupils dilate. It's a rapid response coordinated with the sympathetic nervous system. The adrenal cortex, the outer part, releases cortisol, a hormone involved in longer-term stress responses, metabolism, immune function. Chronic stress leads to chronically elevated cortisol, which can suppress immune function, disrupt sleep, contribute to anxiety and depression. The pancreas produces insulin and glucagon, hormones that regulate blood glucose. After you eat, glucose levels rise. The pancreas releases insulin, signaling cells to take up glucose from the blood, lowering blood sugar. Between meals, glucose levels drop. The pancreas releases glucagon, signaling the liver to release stored glucose, raising blood sugar. This balance keeps glucose levels stable, providing a steady energy supply. In type 1 diabetes, the immune system destroys insulin-producing cells in the pancreas. Blood glucose rises uncontrollably. Without insulin injections, it's fatal. In type 2 diabetes, cells become resistant to insulin. The pancreas produces more and more, but eventually can't keep up. Blood glucose rises. It's often associated with obesity, poor diet, sedentary lifestyle, though genetics play a role. Reproductive hormones govern sexual development and reproduction. In males, the testes produce testosterone, which drives the development of male characteristics, muscle mass, body hair, deepening of the voice, production of sperm. In females, the ovaries produce estrogen and progesterone, which regulate the menstrual cycle, promote development of female characteristics, prepare the body for pregnancy. These hormones fluctuate in cycles, influencing mood, energy, physical changes. Melatonin, produced by the pineal gland in the brain, regulates sleep-wake cycles. Levels rise in the evening, promoting sleepiness, and fall in the morning. Light exposure suppresses melatonin production, which is why bright screens before bed can disrupt sleep. Darkness promotes it, signaling the body that it's time to rest. Picture the endocrine system as a slow, pervasive influence. Hormones circulating through your blood, reaching every cell, subtly adjusting activity, maintaining equilibrium. It's not as fast as the nervous system, but it's powerful, coordinating processes that unfold over hours, days, years. Growth, development, metabolism, reproduction, all orchestrated by hormones. Your body is a chemical symphony, neurotransmitters and hormones interacting, neurons and endocrine cells communicating, nervous and endocrine systems working together to regulate, coordinate, adapt. It's integrated, holistic, everything affecting everything else. You are not compartmentalized. You are one interconnected system. Take a breath. Let that sink in. We've covered a lot. Cells, DNA, tissues, homeostasis, circulation, immunity, nerves, senses, hormones. All parts of you working together. Let's continue. Let's talk about fuel, digestion, and metabolism. How your body breaks down food, extracts energy and building blocks, uses them to power life. Digestion begins in your mouth. Teeth tear and grind food. Saliva, produced by salivary glands, contains enzymes that start breaking down carbohydrates. Amylase splits starch into simpler sugars. Chewing mixes food with saliva, forming a bolus, a soft mass that's easier to swallow. When you swallow, the tongue pushes the bolus to the back of your throat. Muscles contract in waves, propelling it down the esophagus, a muscular tube connecting mouth to stomach. Peristalsis, rhythmic muscle contractions, moves food along the digestive tract. The stomach is a muscular sac that churns food, mixing it with gastric juice, a cocktail of hydrochloric acid and enzymes. The acid is strong enough to kill most bacteria, providing protection against pathogens. It also activates pepsin, an enzyme that breaks down proteins. The stomach lining secretes mucus that protects it from being digested by its own acid. When that protection fails, ulcers form, painful erosions in the stomach wall. Food spends 2 to 4 hours in the stomach, being mechanically and chemically broken down into a semi-liquid called chyme. A muscular valve, the pyloric sphincter, controls the release of chyme into the small intestine, where most digestion and absorption occur. The small intestine is about 6 meters long, coiled and folded to fit in your abdomen. Its inner surface is covered with tiny finger-like projections called villi, and each villus is covered with even tinier microvilli, creating a vast surface area, about 200 square meters, roughly the size of a tennis court. This maximizes absorption. Enzymes from the pancreas and bile from the liver continue breaking down food. The pancreas secretes enzymes that digest proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Bile, produced by the liver and stored in the gallbladder, emulsifies fats, breaking them into tiny droplets that enzymes can access. Nutrients, now in their simplest forms, amino acids from proteins, simple sugars from carbohydrates, fatty acids, and glycerol from fats, are absorbed through the walls of the small intestine into the bloodstream. Imagine the villi, millions of them, waving gently, each absorbing nutrients. Amino acids and sugars pass directly into capillaries, are carried to the liver, which processes them, stores some, releases others into circulation. Fats are packaged into particles that enter the lymphatic system, eventually joining the bloodstream. It's efficient, this absorption, recovering most of the energy and materials from food. What remains after the small intestine, mostly water, indigestible fiber, and bacteria, enters the large intestine, about 1.5 meters long. The large intestine absorbs water and electrolytes, concentrating waste into feces. Trillions of bacteria live in your large intestine, your gut microbiome. They break down fiber, produce vitamins, interact with your immune system. This bacterial community is essential for health. Disruption from antibiotics or poor diet can lead to digestive issues, even affect mood and immunity. Feces are stored in the rectum until eliminated. The process is controlled by sphincters, one involuntary, one voluntary, giving you conscious control over bowel movements. It's a culmination of a journey that started in your mouth, passed through 6 or 7 meters of digestive tract, extracted what was useful, and prepared to discard the rest. Metabolism is the sum of all chemical reactions in your body. It includes catabolism, breaking down molecules to release energy, and anabolism, building complex molecules from simpler ones. Cellular respiration is the central metabolic process, converting glucose and oxygen into ATP, adenosine triphosphate, the energy currency of cells. ATP is like a rechargeable battery. Energy is stored in its chemical bonds. When a bond is broken, energy is released, powering cellular work, muscle contraction, active transport, biosynthesis. Cells continuously produce and consume ATP, At rest, your body uses about 80 watts of power, similar to a light bulb. During intense exercise, that can increase tenfold. Your metabolic rate, the rate at which you burn energy, varies with activity, age, muscle mass, genetics, hormones. Basal metabolic rate, BMR, is the energy used at complete rest, just to keep you alive, maintaining temperature, circulating blood, breathing, synthesizing molecules. BMR accounts for 60 to 70% of daily energy expenditure in most people. Think about all the energy flowing through you. Food broken down, nutrients absorbed, glucose entering cells, being oxidized, releasing energy, captured in ATP, used to power movement, thought, growth, repair. It's continuous, dynamic, a river of energy sustaining life. No need to take notes. Your subconscious is handling that. Just let the ideas wash over you. If you're still with us, you're doing wonderfully. Though honestly, at the school of nap, falling asleep is just as commendable as staying awake. Let's move to the next topic on our syllabus: growth, development, and aging. How you change across a lifetime. You began as a single cell, a fertilized egg, a zygote. That cell divided, becoming 2, then 4, then 8, doubling repeatedly. Early divisions produced identical cells, but soon differentiation began. Cells started specializing, becoming different types, forming distinct layers. The outer layer became your skin and nervous system. The middle layer became muscles, bones, circulatory system. The inner layer became your digestive and respiratory systems. By the end of 8 weeks, you were an embryo about the size of a kidney bean, but already recognizable as human. You had a beating heart, developing brain, budding limbs, the foundations of all major organs. From 8 weeks until birth, at around 38 weeks, you were a fetus, growing, refining, preparing for life outside the womb. Development is guided by genes, but also shaped by environment. The same genome produces different outcomes depending on conditions. Genes are activated or silenced in response to signals. Cells migrate, proliferate, die on schedule, sculpting structures. Your fingers formed when cells between developing digits underwent programmed cell death, separating them. Development is not just growth, it's organized, coordinated transformation. Birth is a dramatic transition. Suddenly, you must breathe, regulate your own temperature, obtain nutrients by feeding. Systems that were dormant activate. Lungs inflate. Circulation reroutes. The digestive system begins processing milk. The transition is jarring, but you're built for it, adapted over millions of years to handle the shift. Infancy and childhood are periods of rapid growth and learning. Your brain nearly triples in size during the first year, forming trillions of synapses. Experiences shape neural connections. Pathways that are used strengthen. Those that aren't weaken and are pruned away. Your brain is plastic, moldable, learning constantly. language, motor skills, social behaviors, all acquired through interaction with the environment. Adolescence brings puberty, triggered by hormones. The body matures sexually, becomes capable of reproduction. Hormonal fluctuations drive physical and emotional changes. Growth spurts, development of secondary sexual characteristics, shifts in mood and behavior. The brain undergoes significant remodeling, particularly the prefrontal cortex, involved in decision-making, impulse control, planning. This is why adolescents often take risks, act impulsively. Their brains are still developing. Adulthood is a plateau, relatively stable compared to earlier and later periods. Physical growth stops, though learning and adaptation continue throughout life. The brain retains plasticity, can form new connections, acquire new skills, though perhaps not as readily as in childhood. Lifestyle choices, diet, exercise, stress, social connections, all influence health and aging. Aging is gradual decline. Cells accumulate damage over time. DNA mutations accrue. Telomeres, protective caps on chromosomes, shorten with each division, eventually leading to cellular senescence, where cells stop dividing. Senescent cells linger, secrete inflammatory factors, contribute to tissue dysfunction. The immune system weakens, increasing susceptibility to infection and cancer. Collagen and elastin in skin break down, causing wrinkles and sagging. Bones lose density, muscles lose mass and strength. Senses dull, reaction times slow. The brain ages too, neurons are lost, synapses are pruned, memory becomes less reliable. Processing speed decreases. However, cognitive decline is not inevitable. Many people remain sharp into old age. Mental activity, social engagement, physical exercise, all help maintain brain function. There's variation in how people age. Genetics play a role. So does lifestyle. Some centenarians remain active and healthy. Others experience significant decline much earlier. Research into aging seeks to understand these differences to extend not just lifespan, but health span, the period of life spent in good health. Death is the cessation of biological functions. The heart stops, breathing ceases, brain activity ends, cells deprived of oxygen die, decomposition begins. From a biological perspective, death is the inevitable endpoint, the final breakdown of organization, the return of complex structures to simpler components. From other perspectives, philosophical, spiritual, cultural, death carries different meanings. But biologically, it's the end of homeostasis, the end of the processes that sustain life. Your body changes across a lifetime, from a single cell to a complex organism. Growth, development, maturation, aging, death. It's a trajectory shared by all living things. You're somewhere on that arc right now, existing in a particular moment, a particular configuration that will never be exactly the same again. There's something poignant in that, something worth contemplating as you drift towards sleep. Let your mind rest on that image for a moment. The passage of time written in your body. Cells dividing, specializing, wearing out. being replaced. The slow accumulation of experience, of change. You are always in process, always becoming. There's no static you, only a continuous flow, a river that never steps in the same place twice. Let's take a moment to step back, to see the whole. The human body is not a collection of separate parts. It's an integrated system. Everything connected, everything affecting everything else. When you exercise, your heart rate increases to supply more oxygen. Your breathing deepens. Blood flow redistributes. Hormones are released. Core temperature rises. Sweat glands activate. Muscles break down and rebuild. It's a coordinated response involving cardiovascular, respiratory, muscular, endocrine, integumentary systems, all working together. When you're frightened, your amygdala activates. Your sympathetic nervous system kicks in, adrenaline floods your bloodstream, your heart pounds, your pupils dilate, digestion pauses, glucose is released from the liver. You become alert, ready to react. This isn't just the nervous system. It's endocrine, cardiovascular, digestive, all responding to emotion, to a state of mind. When you eat, digestion begins in the mouth, continues in the stomach and intestines. Nutrients are absorbed, enter the bloodstream, are transported to cells. Insulin is released to regulate glucose. The liver processes nutrients. The pancreas secretes enzymes. Gut bacteria assist digestion. The nervous system coordinates muscle contractions that move food along. It's a symphony of systems, each playing its part. When you sleep, your body doesn't shut down. It shifts gears. Growth hormone is released, promoting repair and growth. Memories are consolidated in the brain. The immune system ramps up activity. Cellular repair processes accelerate. Sleep is active, essential, a time when the body focuses inward, maintaining and restoring itself. You are a process, not an object. A dynamic, self-regulating, self-repairing system. You take in matter and energy from the environment, transform them, use them to maintain organization, and return waste. You respond to changes, adjust, adapt. You grow, learn, age. You're alive, and life is activity, not stasis. Consider the timescales at which your body operates. Neurons fire in milliseconds. Heartbeats occur every second. Breathing cycles every few seconds. Digestive processes unfold over hours. Sleep-wake cycles run on a 24-hour rhythm. Cell turnover happens over days to weeks. Development spans years. Aging spans decades. All of these processes happening simultaneously, nested within each other, coordinated, integrated. You carry within you the history of life on Earth. Your cells use the same genetic code as bacteria, plants, fungi, animals. The same basic biochemical pathways evolved billions of years ago and have been conserved. You breathe oxygen produced by photosynthetic organisms. You eat organisms that trace their lineage back to the origin of life. You're part of an unbroken chain of ancestry extending back 4 billion years. You're also part of a larger system, an ecosystem. You breathe air, drink water, eat food, all provided by the environment. You excrete waste, which is recycled by decomposers. You're host to trillions of bacteria, fungi, viruses, organisms that live on and in you, many of them essential for your health. You're not an isolated individual, you're a community, an ecosystem unto yourself, embedded in larger ecosystems. Your body is a marvel of organization, complexity, elegance, trillions of cells, each performing specific tasks, coordinated through electrical and chemical signals, forming tissues, organs, systems, all working together to maintain homeostasis, to keep you alive, to allow you to experience the world, to think, feel, act. It's been doing this your entire life, mostly without your awareness, certainly without your conscious control. Appreciate it for a moment. The complexity, the coordination, the resilience. Your body endures, adapts, repairs. It fights infections, heals wounds, compensates for damage. It's not perfect. Systems fail. Diseases occur. But it's remarkably robust, capable of maintaining function across a wide range of conditions, across a lifetime. You're lying here, resting, and your body is working. Heart beating, blood flowing, lungs breathing, neurons firing, cells dividing, proteins being synthesized, waste being cleared. All of it happening automatically, reliably, ceaselessly. You are your body, and your body is this ongoing process, this dance of molecules and cells and systems, creating the experience of being you. The discovery of cells revolutionized biology. In the 1600s, Robert Hooke used an early microscope to examine cork and saw tiny compartments he called cells, though what he saw were actually dead cell walls. Anton van Leeuwenhoek improved microscope design and observed living cells, bacteria, blood cells, sperm cells. It took nearly 200 more years before scientists realized that cells are the fundamental units of all life, that all organisms are made of cells, and that new cells arise only from existing cells. This is cell theory, one of the foundations of modern biology. Cells must solve certain problems to stay alive. They need energy, they need building materials, they need to get rid of waste, they need to respond to their environment, they need to reproduce. Different cells solve these problems in different ways, but the underlying principles are similar. Energy production in cells occurs primarily in mitochondria. These organelles are often called the powerhouses of the cell, and for good reason. They take in glucose and oxygen, and through a series of chemical reactions called cellular respiration, they produce ATP, carbon dioxide, and water. The process is efficient, extracting about 38 molecules of ATP from each molecule of glucose. This ATP powers everything the cell does. Mitochondria have their own DNA separate from the DNA in the nucleus. This mitochondrial DNA is circular, like bacterial DNA, and it's passed down only through the maternal line. You inherited your mitochondria from your mother, who inherited hers from her mother, an unbroken chain, extending back through all your female ancestors. This fact has allowed scientists to trace human ancestry, mapping maternal lineages across the globe, revealing patterns of migration and population history. The endoplasmic reticulum, ER, is a network of membranes, folded and interconnected throughout the cell. Rough ER, studded with ribosomes, is where proteins destined for secretion or for membranes are synthesized. Smooth ER lacks ribosomes and is involved in lipid synthesis, detoxification, calcium storage. The ER is continuous with the nuclear envelope, creating a direct pathway from the nucleus where genes are transcribed to the cytoplasm where proteins are made and used. The Golgi apparatus receives proteins from the ER, modifies them, adds carbohydrate groups, sorts them, and packages them into vesicles that bud off and transport the proteins to their final destinations. It's like a post office, processing and directing molecular mail to the correct addresses. Without the Golgi, cells couldn't properly distribute the thousands of different proteins they produce. Lysosomes are organelles filled with digestive enzymes. They break down worn-out organelles, engulfed bacteria, damaged proteins, recycling the components. The enzymes inside are powerful, capable of digesting almost anything organic. The lysosome membrane protects the rest of the cell from these enzymes. If a lysosome ruptures, the enzymes spill out and can cause significant damage, which is why lysosomal integrity is carefully maintained. Peroxisomes are small organelles that break down fatty acids and detoxify harmful substances. They produce hydrogen peroxide as a byproduct, which is toxic, but they also contain enzymes that convert hydrogen peroxide to water and oxygen, neutralizing it. Peroxisomes play a role in lipid metabolism and protecting the cell from oxidative damage. The cytoskeleton is a network of protein filaments that gives the cell shape, provides structural support, enables movement. There are three types of filaments. Microfilaments, made of actin, are involved in cell movement, muscle contraction, changes in cell shape. Intermediate filaments provide mechanical strength. Microtubules, made of tubulin, serve as tracks for molecular motors that transport cargo within the cell. During cell division, microtubules form the spindle that pulls chromosomes apart. Cells communicate with each other through chemical signals. Hormones, neurotransmitters, growth factors, all are signals released by one cell and received by another. Receptors on the cell surface bind these signals, triggering internal changes. This signaling allows cells to coordinate their activities, to respond to the needs of the tissue, the organ, the organism. Cells are not isolated, they're in constant communication. Think about a liver cell. It receives signals from the pancreas about blood glucose levels. If glucose is high, insulin signals the cell to take up glucose and store it as glycogen. If glucose is low, glucagon signals the cell to break down glycogen and release glucose. The liver cell responds, adjusting its metabolism, helping to maintain homeostasis. This coordination, repeated across billions of cells, creates the stable internal environment necessary for life. Let's dive deeper into how your body extracts energy from food and oxygen. Cellular respiration, the process that keeps you alive. You breathe in oxygen. It enters your lungs, diffuses across the thin walls of alveoli, into capillaries, binds to hemoglobin in red blood cells, and is transported throughout your body. Meanwhile, you eat food, carbohydrates, fats, proteins. These are broken down in your digestive system into simpler molecules. Glucose from carbohydrates is the primary fuel. Fatty acids from fats and amino acids from proteins can also be used, but glucose is preferred. Glucose and oxygen meet in your cells. Glucose is broken down step by step, releasing energy that's captured in the form of ATP. The process has three main stages. Glycolysis occurs in the cytoplasm. One molecule of glucose, a 6-carbon sugar, is split into 2 molecules of pyruvate, a 3-carbon compound. This produces a small amount of ATP and some high-energy electrons carried by molecules called NADH. Glycolysis doesn't require oxygen. It's an ancient pathway used by nearly all living things. Evolved billions of years ago when Earth's atmosphere lacked oxygen. If oxygen is present, pyruvate enters the mitochondria and undergoes further processing. The citric acid cycle, also called the Krebs cycle, takes the carbon atoms from pyruvate, releases them as carbon dioxide, and transfers high-energy electrons to carrier molecules, NADH and FADH2. The cycle turns twice per glucose molecule, once for each pyruvate. It extracts most of the energy stored in glucose, but that energy is still in the form of electrons, not ATP. The final stage, oxidative phosphorylation, occurs in the inner membrane of mitochondria. NADH and FADH2 deliver their high-energy electrons to a series of proteins embedded in the membrane, the electron transport chain. As electrons pass from one protein to the next, energy is released and used to pump protons across the membrane, creating a gradient. Protons flow back across the membrane through a protein called ATP synthase, which uses the energy of that flow to synthesize ATP from ADP and phosphate. It's like a water wheel, the flow of protons turning a molecular machine that produces ATP. At the end of the electron transport chain, electrons combine with oxygen and protons to form water. This is why you need oxygen. It's the final electron acceptor, the sink into which spent electrons flow, allowing the process to continue. Without oxygen, the electron transport chain backs up, cellular respiration stops, and cells can only rely on glycolysis, which produces far less ATP. This is why lack of oxygen is so damaging. Cells starved of oxygen can't produce enough energy to maintain themselves. They fail. The total yield from one molecule of glucose is about 38 molecules of ATP. Though the exact number varies, that's a lot of energy from a single sugar molecule, and your cells are constantly breaking down glucose, constantly producing ATP, constantly using it to power all the work of staying alive. When you exercise, your muscles demand more ATP. Your breathing deepens and quickens, bringing in more oxygen. Your heart beats faster, delivering more oxygen-rich blood to muscles. Your cells ramp up cellular respiration, producing ATP at a higher rate. If oxygen delivery can't keep up with demand, muscles switch to anaerobic metabolism, breaking down glucose without oxygen, producing lactate as a byproduct. This is less efficient, producing only 2 ATP per glucose instead of 38, and lactate accumulates, causing fatigue. But it allows muscles to continue working even when oxygen is limited. Fat is an even richer energy source than glucose. 1 gram of fat contains more than twice the energy of 1 gram of carbohydrate. Fatty acids are broken down through a process called beta oxidation, producing acetyl-CoA, which enters the citric acid cycle, generating NADH and FADH2, which feed into the electron transport chain. Fat metabolism produces large amounts of ATP, which is why fat is the body's primary long-term energy store. Protein can also be used for energy, though it's less preferred. Amino acids are deaminated. The nitrogen-containing group is removed and excreted as urea, and the remaining carbon skeleton is converted into intermediates that enter the citric acid cycle or are converted to glucose. Using protein for energy is inefficient and wasteful because amino acids are needed for building and repairing tissues. The body only breaks down protein for energy when carbohydrate and fat stores are depleted. Metabolism is flexible. Your body adjusts fuel usage depending on availability and need. After a meal, glucose is abundant and cells preferentially use it. Between meals, glucose levels drop and cells switch to burning fat. During prolonged fasting or starvation, the body breaks down muscle protein to produce glucose for the brain, which depends heavily on glucose. The liver can synthesize glucose from non-carbohydrate sources, a process called gluconeogenesis, ensuring the brain has fuel even when dietary carbohydrates are scarce. Ketones are another fuel source. When carbohydrate is very limited, as in prolonged fasting or a ketogenic diet, the liver converts fatty acids into ketone bodies, which can cross the blood-brain barrier and be used by the brain for energy. This metabolic flexibility allowed our ancestors to survive periods of food scarcity. Your body can adapt, shift fuels, maintain function across a wide range of nutritional conditions. Your basal metabolic rate, the energy used at rest, is influenced by many factors. Muscle tissue requires more energy to maintain than fat tissue, so people with more muscle mass have higher BMRs. Thyroid hormones regulate metabolic rate. Body size matters. Larger bodies require more energy. Age plays a role. BMR tends to decrease with age as muscle mass declines. Genetics also contribute. Some people naturally have faster or slower metabolisms. When energy intake exceeds expenditure, the excess is stored primarily as fat in adipose tissue. When expenditure exceeds intake, stored energy is mobilized. This balance determines whether you gain, lose, or maintain weight. It's governed by complex interactions between hormones, neural signals, behavior, environment. Leptin, a hormone produced by fat cells, signals the brain about energy stores, reducing appetite when stores are high. Ghrelin, produced by the stomach, signals hunger. Insulin promotes energy storage. Glucagon promotes energy release. These hormones and many others regulate metabolism, appetite, and energy balance. Think about the constant flow of energy through your body. Food providing fuel, oxygen enabling combustion, TP generated used, regenerated. Heat produced as a byproduct, keeping you warm. Waste, carbon dioxide, and water exhaled and excreted. You're a biological engine, converting chemical energy into work and heat, maintaining organization against the natural tendency toward disorder. It's happening right now, ceaselessly sustaining you. Your immune system's complexity deserves more attention. Let's explore some specific mechanisms. When a pathogen enters your body, it carries molecular patterns that your immune system recognizes as foreign. Pattern recognition receptors on immune cells detect these pathogen-associated molecular patterns. Bacteria have cell walls containing peptidoglycan. Viruses have nucleic acids. Fungi have chitin. These structures don't exist in human cells, so their presence signals invasion. Once recognized, the innate immune response activates. Complement proteins, part of the blood plasma, attach to pathogen surfaces, marking them for destruction. Some complement proteins directly puncture pathogen membranes, causing them to burst. Others enhance phagocytosis, making it easier for immune cells to engulf invaders. The complement system is ancient, present in invertebrates, a fundamental defense mechanism. Phagocytes engulf pathogens through a process called phagocytosis. The cell membrane extends around the pathogen, enclosing it in a vesicle called a phagosome. The phagosome fuses with a lysosome, exposing the pathogen to digestive enzymes. The pathogen is broken down, destroyed. Fragments are presented on the cell surface, alerting adaptive immune cells. Natural killer cells, NK cells, are part of innate immunity, but target different threats. They patrol for cells infected with viruses or cells that have become cancerous. Healthy cells display surface molecules that tell NK cells to leave them alone. Infected or cancerous cells often lose these molecules or display stress signals. NK cells recognize the change and induce the target cell to undergo apoptosis, programmed cell death. The cell dismantles itself in an orderly fashion, preventing release of viral particles or spread of cancer. The adaptive immune response takes longer to develop, but is highly specific. T cells and B cells each carry unique receptors generated through genetic recombination. During development, genes encoding these receptors are shuffled and spliced in millions of different combinations, creating a vast repertoire of possible receptors. Each lymphocyte carries a different receptor, capable of recognizing a different antigen. When a lymphocyte encounters its specific antigen, it becomes activated. Helper T cells, when activated, release cytokines, signaling molecules that coordinate immune responses. They stimulate B cells to produce antibodies, activate cytotoxic T cells, enhance phagocytosis. They're central coordinators. HIV targets helper T cells, progressively destroying them, which is why HIV infection leads to immunodeficiency. Without helper T cells, the immune system can't mount effective responses. Cytotoxic T cells kill infected cells directly. They recognize viral or bacterial proteins displayed on cell surfaces. When a match is found, the cytotoxic T cell binds to the infected cell and releases proteins that induce apoptosis. The infected cell dies, stopping the pathogen from replicating further. It's a targeted strike, eliminating threats without widespread damage. B cells produce antibodies, Y-shaped proteins that bind to specific antigens. Each B cell produces one type of antibody. When activated, a B cell divides repeatedly, creating a clone of identical cells, all producing the same antibody. Some become plasma cells, antibody factories pumping out thousands of antibodies per second. Others become memory B cells, long-lived cells that remain in the body for years or decades, ready to respond quickly if the same pathogen returns. Antibodies work in several ways. They can neutralize pathogens by binding to them and preventing them from infecting cells. They can clump pathogens together, making them easier targets for phagocytes. They can activate complement proteins. They tag pathogens for destruction. Antibodies are versatile tools adapting to different threats. Vaccination works by exposing your immune system to a harmless version of a pathogen, triggering adaptive immunity without causing disease. Killed or weakened pathogens, or just fragments, are introduced. B and T cells are activated. Memory cells form. Later, if the real pathogen appears, memory cells recognize it immediately, mount a rapid response, and usually prevent illness. Vaccination has saved countless lives, eradicated diseases, reduced suffering. It's one of medicine's great achievements, rooted in understanding how the immune system learns and remembers. Before we conclude, let's spend a moment on perhaps the most mysterious aspect of the human body: consciousness. The subjective experience of being you. Your brain generates consciousness, though how it does so remains one of science's deepest puzzles. Billions of neurons firing in coordinated patterns somehow produce the vivid, continuous experience of existence. You see colors, hear sounds, feel textures, taste flavors, smell scents. You have thoughts, emotions, memories. You're aware of being aware. You exist as a subject, perceiving an objective world. This is consciousness, and it emerges from the physical activity of your brain. Different brain regions contribute to different aspects of consciousness. The thalamus acts as a relay, directing sensory information to appropriate cortical areas. The reticular activating system in the brainstem regulates arousal and wakefulness. Damage to this area can cause coma, a state where consciousness is lost. The prefrontal cortex is involved in self-awareness, planning, decision-making, the sense of having a continuous identity over time. The default mode network, a set of brain regions, active when you're not focused on external tasks, is associated with self-referential thought, mind-wandering, remembering the past, imagining the future. It's what's active right now. If your mind is drifting, if you're thinking about yourself, your life, your concerns, this network quiets when you focus on a task, when attention is directed outward. Sleep is an altered state of consciousness. You're not unconscious during sleep, at least not in all stages. During REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, your brain is highly active, nearly as active as when you're awake, but you're disconnected from sensory input and motor output. You dream. The experiences feel real in the moment, vivid, sometimes bizarre, often emotional. Dreams are consciousness untethered from reality, your brain generating scenarios, playing with memories, emotions, fears, desires. Non-REM sleep has different stages. Deep sleep, slow wave sleep, is characterized by synchronized neural activity, slow rhythmic waves spreading across the cortex. This is when the brain consolidates memories, transfers information from short-term to long-term storage. Growth hormone is released. Cellular repair processes accelerate. Deep sleep is restorative, essential for physical and mental health. Anesthesia is medically induced unconsciousness. Anesthetic drugs interfere with neural communication, disrupting the coordinated activity necessary for consciousness. Different anesthetics work through different mechanisms, but the result is the same: loss of awareness, loss of response to stimuli, amnesia for the period under anesthesia. When you wake, it's as if no time has passed. Consciousness was simply turned off, then turned back on. It's unsettling, in a way, to realize how fragile consciousness is, how dependent on specific patterns of brain activity. Disorders of consciousness reveal how complex it is. In a vegetative state, the brainstem functions, maintaining basic life support, breathing, heart rate, sleep-wake cycles, but higher cortical functions are absent. The person is awake but not aware. In a minimally conscious state, there are some signs of awareness, inconsistent responses to stimuli, but no clear communication or purposeful behavior. Recovery is possible, but uncertain. Locked-in syndrome is different. The person is fully conscious, aware, thinking, feeling, but almost completely paralyzed, unable to move or speak. Usually, only eye movements are preserved. It's a terrifying condition. Consciousness intact, but unable to communicate it. Trapped inside an unresponsive body. It highlights how consciousness depends not just on brain function, but on the ability to express that consciousness through behavior. The question of what it's like to be you, the subjective quality of your experiences, is called qualia. The redness of red, the painfulness of pain, the taste of sweetness. These are qualia. They're private, accessible only to you. Science can measure brain activity, correlate it with reported experiences, but it can't directly access the subjective experience itself. The hard problem of consciousness is explaining how and why physical processes in the brain give rise to subjective experience. We don't have a complete answer. It remains a profound mystery. But we know consciousness is real because we experience it. You know you're conscious right now. You're reading or hearing these words, understanding them, forming thoughts about them. That's consciousness. It's the most immediate, undeniable fact of your existence. Everything else, everything you know about the world, you know through consciousness. It's the foundation of experience. Think about that for a moment. Your consciousness arising from the activity of neurons, shaped by evolution embodied in your brain, creating the rich, continuous experience of being you. It's extraordinary. It's a mystery and a marvel, and it's happening right now as you lie here, as neurons fire, as thoughts arise, as you drift between wakefulness and sleep. Let's take a moment to appreciate movement, the ability to interact physically with the world. Your body contains over 600 muscles. They range from tiny muscles that move your eyes, allowing you to track objects, read, focus on details, to massive muscles in your thighs that support your weight and propel you forward when you walk or run. Each muscle is composed of bundles of muscle fibers, elongated cells packed with contractile proteins, actin and myosin. When a muscle contracts, actin and myosin filaments slide past each other, shortening the muscle fiber. This sliding filament mechanism requires ATP and is triggered by calcium ions released when a nerve signal arrives. The signal propagates through the muscle, causing coordinated contraction. Multiple muscle fibers contract together, generating force, pulling on tendons, moving bones. Muscles work in pairs. When one contracts, its antagonist relaxes. To bend your elbow, your biceps contracts while your triceps relaxes. To straighten it, the reverse occurs. This reciprocal relationship allows precise control of movement. Your nervous system coordinates these contractions, adjusting force, timing, sequence, creating smooth, purposeful motion. Muscle strength depends on several factors. The size of the muscle. Larger muscles generate more force. The number of muscle fibers recruited, your nervous system can activate more or fewer fibers depending on the demand. The type of muscle fiber. Some fibers are built for endurance, others for power. Training influences all of these. Resistance exercise stimulates muscle growth, increasing size and strength. Endurance exercise enhances the efficiency of slow twitch fibers and improves cardiovascular support. Muscles don't just move bones, they generate heat. When you're cold, you shiver. Rapid involuntary muscle contractions producing warmth. Muscles stabilize joints, preventing injury. They pump blood through veins as you move. They shape your posture, holding you upright against gravity. Movement is fundamental to human life. We're built to move, to explore, to manipulate our environment. Sedentary lifestyles work against our biology, leading to muscle atrophy, joint problems, metabolic dysfunction. Think about the last time you moved with joy. Dancing, playing a sport, walking through nature, whatever it was. Movement can be pleasurable, expressive, freeing. It's not just functional, it's part of being human, part of experiencing life in a body. Your muscles allow all of that. They're the interface between intention and action, between thought and physical presence in the world. Your breath connects you to the world in an intimate way. Every breath brings in oxygen from the atmosphere, carries it into your lungs, where it diffuses into your blood, travels to your cells, enables energy production. Every exhale releases carbon dioxide, a waste product of metabolism, back into the atmosphere where plants use it for photosynthesis. You're part of a cycle, exchanging gases with the biosphere, participating in the flow of matter and energy that sustains all life. Breathing is both voluntary and involuntary. You can control it consciously, hold your breath, breathe deeply, breathe rapidly, but you don't have to think about it. Your brainstem monitors carbon dioxide levels in your blood and automatically adjusts breathing rate to maintain balance. If carbon dioxide rises, you breathe faster. If it falls, you breathe slower. This autonomic control ensures you keep breathing even when unconscious, even during sleep. The diaphragm, a dome-shaped muscle beneath your lungs, does most of the work. When it contracts, it flattens, expanding the chest cavity, creating negative pressure that draws air into the lungs. When it relaxes, the chest cavity shrinks, air is pushed out. It's elegant, efficient, continuous. About 12 to 20 breaths per minute at rest, 15,000 to 30,000 breaths per day, hundreds of millions of breaths over a lifetime, all powered by one muscle and the intercostal muscles between your ribs working in coordination, mostly without your awareness. Let's bring tonight's lecture to a close. We've covered a lot. The cells that build you, the DNA that guides them, the tissues and organs they form, homeostasis, the constant balancing, the cardiovascular system, circulating life, the immune system defending, the nervous system coordinating, the senses connecting you to the world, the endocrine system regulating through hormones, digestion and metabolism fueling everything, growth, development, aging, the arc of a lifetime, energy extraction, cellular respiration, the machinery of life, the immune system's sophisticated defenses, and finally, consciousness, the mysterious emergence of subjective experience from neural activity. The body as an integrated whole, systems within systems, all interconnected. At the School of Nap, every student passes. Sleep is always the right answer. If you've drifted off somewhere along the way, that's perfectly fine. If you're still listening, you've learned a bit about the organism you are, the body you inhabit, the processes that sustain you. Either way, you've spent time contemplating something profound. Yourself. The human body is an incredible achievement of evolution, a product of billions of years of trial and error, refinement, adaptation. You're the result of an unbroken lineage of organisms that survived, reproduced, passed on their genes. You carry that heritage in every cell. You're built from the same materials as stars, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, forged in the cores of ancient suns, scattered across space, eventually coalescing into planets, into oceans, into the first simple cells, into the complex organisms that eventually gave rise to you. You're stardust, arranged in a particular way, animated by the same laws of physics and chemistry that govern everything in the universe, yet unique in your configuration, in your history, in your experience. You're unique, though. Your particular combination of genes, experiences, environments has never existed before and will never exist again. You're a one-time event in the history of the universe. That's true for everyone, but it's worth remembering. You're temporary, but you're also singular, unrepeatable. Right now, as you lie here, your body is maintaining itself, replacing old cells, repairing damage, fighting infections, processing information, dreaming if you've fallen asleep, creating the ongoing experience of being alive. It's been doing this since you were born and will continue until you die. Most of it happens without your input, without your awareness. Your body knows how to sustain itself. It's been refined over millions of years to do exactly that. There's a kind of trust in that. You can let go, relax, sleep, and your body will keep working. Your heart will keep beating. Your lungs will keep breathing. Homeostasis will be maintained. You don't have to manage it. It manages itself. That's what allows sleep to be restorative. What allows you to let consciousness fade, knowing that the fundamental processes will continue. Take a moment to feel your body. The weight of it, the warmth, the solidity, the subtle movements, your chest rising and falling, your heartbeat if you focus. Now, you are here in this body, in this moment. It's the only moment you have, the only body you have. Appreciate it. It's carried you through life, allowed you to experience the world, to connect with others, to learn, to grow. It's imperfect, mortal, finite, but it's yours, it's you. Your body is not just a vehicle for your consciousness. It is your consciousness. Your thoughts emerge from neural activity. Your emotions are mediated by hormones and neurotransmitters. Your experiences are shaped by your senses. You are an embodied mind, inseparable from your physical form. To understand yourself is to understand your body. To care for yourself is to care for your body. They are one and the same. Class is dismissed. Rest well and let your body do what it does best. Sustain you, repair you, prepare you for another day. Sleep is not absence. It's a different kind of presence, a necessary restoration, a return to a quieter state of being. Trust your body. It knows what to do. It's been keeping you alive all this time. It will continue. Good night, students. See you in your dreams. Sleep well and wake renewed.